Hadley. Good morning and welcome. Welcome to Marker and welcome to this conversation. We're so happy to have you here. And what I wanted to do today was just give a little background on you and help people understand what brought you to Marker and what you're excited to be working on here.
Excellent. That sounds like fun. Sort of complementary to other financial things I've done in my past. In my old days, I worked at UBS. I had an internal hedge fund doing quantitative stock trading, the sorts of things that sort of a Two Sigma or Renaissance Technologies does. And so real estate is similar, right? It's a financial asset. It's quantitative. There's data. So it was all sort of similar to what I'd done in the past. But it turned out that the real estate world hadn't really sort of caught on to the big data revolution yet. And that's what intrigued me the most, as using some of my experience from other parts of the finance world in a new asset class. And eventually that has led me to Marker, where there's a whole bunch of other people, I think, that see the same sort of opportunity to use data and machine learning and other modern techniques along with all of the data. It's available to create tools for commercial real estate investors to make their life easier. And I'm excited to be doing that.
You've worked in different parts of the financial services world. As you said, commercial real estate, also it's another asset class. It's the biggest asset class. What are some of the areas, the biggest opportunities that you see in commercial real estate overall in terms of bringing more true data science techniques to bear?
Yeah, I think surprisingly, there's a lot of data in commercial real estate. I didn't realize that until I started work in the area, but people have been collecting information about like multifamily housing and just regular single family housing for many, many decades, right? And of course, there's census data going back even longer than that. So there's all kinds of information available at a national level across the United States, but there's a lot of it, right? And so it's too much to think about in your head or even with Excel. My impression is that real estate has often been a fairly local sort of a thing. People have expert knowledge in whatever their local area is that they know about, but they have no idea about the rest of the state they live in, and certainly not about the rest of the country. And so it's very hard to do comparisons across state lines or from the West Coast to the East Coast. And when you're trying to create a sort of a whole national portfolio of assets, you want to have access to purchasing properties absolutely anywhere in the country. And you want to be able to compare them, which means you need to use a lot of data to do that. And it becomes not such a local issue anymore. And I think that's where data science can come in to try and take the burden of dealing with all of that data from all of those markets all across the United States and come up with a unified approach to deciding where you should make your next investment and where are the assets that you're interested in, where they're going to have the highest appreciation in the next years to come. And we can create tools, I think, to help broaden people's knowledge across the country instead of just the market that they used to know so well as the local market.
I agree. I mean, that the ability to kind of scale your intuition, I think, is one of the biggest opportunities, right? Like a lot of our clients have been extremely successful based on knowledge that they have of a certain market, a certain asset class, but they need to scale beyond it. And I think that's what we can help them do.
Yeah, exactly. We can create the tools that can make their intuition work. Their intuition is probably correct because they've been learning for many, many years how things work in their local market. And the markets are very similar across the country. It's the same supply and demand going on, but there's different demographics going on in different parts of the country and different histories of how assets have appreciated over the years. And taking all that stuff into account is what we can do with data science and statistics and try and help them with tools to use their intuition everywhere across the country without having to become an expert in every single market across the country. The role of data science is really just to take what you're doing already and just do it way more. right? Do it at a much, much larger scale across the entire country, across decades potentially of data in history to uncover sort of interesting relationships that you never would have necessarily even thought of existing, that only exist if you have so much data. And it's the kind of thing that only an automated process can find those relationships. And that's the sort of thing that data science is really good at, is taking human intuition and scaling it up across a huge amount of data. And the interesting thing then is, quite often you learn new things. Yes, your intuition is mostly correct, but there are always like second order or third order effects that you never would have seen as a person that might be obvious if you look at data across the entire country for the last decade. And those might be an interesting new opportunity to acquire assets under a certain set of conditions that you wouldn't have thought of before as an investment opportunity. And we can help uncover those by analyzing and sifting through large amounts of data. What really attracted me to Marker was finding a collection of people who sort of had a similar vision as I do of what we can do with commercial real estate data and the kinds of tools we can build to help research and acquisitions teams at all the various companies we work with. Previously, I was doing that on my own at a different company, and it was a lot of work to do all on my own. And so it's nice to find a bunch of other people who have a similar goal. And as a team, we're just going to get it done way faster than I could have ever done on my own. Anything you do in data science depends on data, right? It's information about the real world, which is sort of the truth information that we use to uncover relationships or to create tools. And what I've been really impressed with the Marker team is that they've already worked with so many different kinds of data and organized it and figured out what it really means, and made it available in a friendly format to other customers. But then we will also use that internally to create additional products on top of sort of raw data feeds like forecast models for various things. So, that raw information is the key thing that a data scientist needs. And Marker has already gone a very long way towards collecting the most important bits of data for commercial real estate information. And I think that really puts us in a good position to expand to even more kinds of data, but then to take all of those things and start using them in a combined way to create tools to help the acquisitions teams answer the questions that they have on their mind. Lived here for about 15 out of the last 20 years, so I've come to really like it quite a lot. It's a small town. There's only about 80,000 people here. It's also the capital of the state of New Mexico, but it's also been the capital of a number of other things. It was the capital of the Mexican territories when they owned this area, and it was capital of New Spain when this was the part of the Spanish colonies. So Santa Fe has been around for over 400 years, which is a very long time for the United States. And it's been a capital city during that entire time period. It's always been the center of this region. So there's a lot of history here. There are a lot of very old buildings. The downtown part of Santa Fe is very unique. It doesn't look like other cities in the United States for sure. It's sort of part Spanish, part Mexican, part United States. It's a combination of all of those cultures, which makes it really quite interesting, I think. So just exploring the downtown area is fun. Many of the things you see in the downtown area, you might be surprised, are art galleries. There's a tremendous amount of art in Santa Fe. There's almost over 200 galleries here. And it's only the second largest art market behind New York City in the United States. So there's a huge amount of art being sold here. And so it's fun to just wander around and go into some building, and you can see either, famous older artists or new modern things, and just sort of browse the area.